the stunning Cinque Terre in Italy. Thanks for joining today. This is Graciously Gloria. You can check out my other video where I give you overall tips on traveling to Italy and specifically Rome, Florence as well. And in those videos, I talk about my day trips to Positano, the Tuscan countryside, and Tivoli. But let's jump in and talk about this seaside village area that you want to hear about, Cinque Terre. So it has 5 different villages. Now, we were coming from Florence over to that area, and the train ride took about 2.5 hours to get there from that location. I would suggest you book your train ahead of time because that way you know when you're going and how to get there. And once you arrive in that area, there's a couple different ways to get around. Now, it is on the coast, and so from there, they have a separate smaller train that takes you between the villages, and you can get a ticket that is included then to go to all those different locations. That's what we did. You also have an option to take a ferry to get from some of the villages to the other ones, and there also is a trail system. Now, for the trail system, that can get crowded. You do want to get a ticket for that too. Some of it can be have a steep drop off. So just if you're like afraid of heights or something, that might be not your best way to travel, but I would wear some comfortable walking shoes if you're going to be walking on that trail. And again, you can get a ticket that includes that trail system to be able to check that out. And I would say it's definitely worth it to see that. Now, once we were there, we primarily then decided to go and travel via train on the different locations. We were staying in Rio Maggiore, and what was great about that, oh, it was so picturesque. I'm going to pop in lots of photos for you. Stunning. But a little fun thing to note about this is my Airbnb host. She was so lovely. She literally met us at the train station, which is just kind of, I felt like unheard of in my mind. And she didn't actually speak that much English, and I only speak a little bit of Italian. Like I only know some basic things like ciao and per favore and grazie mille and some different basic phrases that I learned how to say. But what we ended up doing is communicating via Google Translate. So she would say it in Italian and it would say it out loud to me in English, and then I would say something in English to my phone and it would say it to her in Italian. Modern conveniences, right? And we just had like this lovely conversation. And by the end, we're like hugging at the end, and just again, we were like communicating in this certain way, but just oh, just was so lovely. She kind of explained to me some different ways to walk around the town and to get to the main village area from the Airbnb, and our Airbnb had a stunning view of the water. So I'll pop in some photos of that. And we went to Florence, and that was where we ate some lunch. And you know what's interesting is pesto. I don't know if you've had pesto. I love pesto. I like to make homemade pesto with the basil and the pine nuts. And that is actually the place where pesto started. So isn't that neat? And so I wanted to make sure I tried some pesto there and did enjoy that for lunch and would recommend that. And then we were going to take the ferry, but we decided my husband was tired because we had been traveling, for so many days at this point. So we ended up just taking the easier way to get there via a train. And so we did that, and we went to Monterosso and show you the beach area there. I wanted to spend a little bit more time relaxing, but we did at least get to see the beach, and that was lovely, and walked around at sunset time. Now, by this time, my husband wanted to take a nap, but was a little like wondering would I be safe, and I thought I felt very safe in this area to walk around on my own. But then I made it down to the village, so quaint, and like I said, just got some wonderful photos there. I really, really enjoyed that. And then made it back then to the Airbnb, got my husband, and then we walked back down and had dinner there. And what's nice too, as the day passes on in that area, you have less people there for a day trip, so it's not as crowded in the evening. So I would recommend, if you do get a chance to spend the evening in the Cinque Terre, to do that. And we didn't make it to all the villages because we only had about 24 hours there. We got there in the morning and left for the next morning for the airport to go home. I would say even if you have 24 hours, well worth your time on a train to get to that location. I would love to go and spend some more time in the Cinque Terre. And it was so stunning. And like I said, the people there were lovely. The food was delicious. I could definitely see like just like a vision of like, oh, I would live by the coast in Italy and just living in those towns, what it would be like to live in a really lovely, picturesque area. So I think you would really enjoy visiting there as well. Now, what we did to get home was we then took a train ride to Milan. It was about a 3-hour train ride to get to Milan. Now, actually, once we got to Milan, we didn't get time really to explore there because we were going to be catching our flight. I would say you want to allot about 3 hours at the airport to give plenty of time once you arrive there. And a little tip, if you don't have global entry, I'm going to pop the link for that government app that makes it easier to get back in through customs in the US without global entry. And that app just makes it, you can go in a separate line. That made it faster when we arrived back. So I hope that you please consider subscribing for more great travel videos. I have ones on lovely Paris, ones in the US on places like Charleston, New Orleans, and have lots of upcoming videos for you. I'm going to do one on California soon, specifically Orange County, and happy travels to you.